Hi again, everyone. And in the next in my circumspect series, I'd like to walk through a bit of what another YouTuber talked about in the sake of how FI works. And this was described by someone who has FI in their back slot. It's in shadow. And I found it very interesting to compare and contrast. And I won't bring up the name of the YouTuber. I'm going so far afield that it's probably not even relevant. Not that there's anything right or wrong, but the person described situations where there's an automatic emotional response and ties FI and emotion together. The two are, I would say, correlated, but they're not necessarily always the same. I think I may have said in the past, or may not have, I don't enjoy experiencing extremes of emotion. It's something I rather stay away from. That doesn't make me not FI, just because I don't enjoy those extremes any more than every ESTP has to enjoy skydiving. There are preferences in terms of feeling as a judging function versus the experiences of emotion. Anyway, what the YouTuber talked about was first a scenario where one gets slapped, understands that they're being disrespected, and therefore has a response of anger, and then probably does something based on that response. A second scenario was about recognizing that one's being stalked by a tiger, and understands that their life is in danger, then has a fear reaction that creates a fight or flight response. Now, this is kind of the perfect NI, FI, SE kind of combination. So if you pull apart the stack, here's how I interpret it, looking that being slapped, you have kind of the SE input of the thing that happens. The NI realization that, I've been disrespected, which then leads to the FI response of anger, and then to an assertive response of taking action. Same with the tiger. You walk through this series, it's that you're being menaced by the tiger, SE input. You make the NI conclusion, your life is in danger, which then leads to the FI related emotion to FI of fear, and then SE kind of comes around, all that turns into assertiveness of a fight or flight response, probably flight. But it's not really that way, is it, for FI DOMs and for INFPs in particular? Folks who've got SE back slot, in shadow, and NI in shadow, and, what I see instead is that the scenarios would run more like this, that you get slapped, there's the SE input, and then it goes to NE to say, okay, what does this actually mean? Have I been disrespected? Have I done something wrong? Has there been some sort of mistake? Is there some other reason why I was the recipient of said slap? And so that creates a processing conundrum of how to interpret this? What are the possible ways to interpret it? Which then leads to a similar conundrum in FI. How does one react appropriately to what happened? So again, FI is not emotions, but to the extent that they correlate. Should I be angry about this, or upset, or should I feel shame, or should I feel confusion, or should I feel sympathy and kindness? It is not a foregone conclusion that A comes to B, comes to C, comes to D. It ends up getting jammed up in the works, that A happens, I don't know what this means, I don't know how to respond, and therefore a response is not forthcoming. Similarly with the tiger series, the idea of being stalked by a tiger, yes, it's probably fairly easy to lead to the conclusion that one's life is in danger, but maybe the tiger isn't hungry. Maybe it's playful. Maybe there is some hope, despite this obviously being a situation that would call for fear, that there's some other way to interpret the data, the sensory data, which then leads to how to feel about that. Yes, fear is probably the most natural reaction, but it could also be resignation. It could be anger. There could be, again, a list of valid responses based on the interpretation of the frame of what is actually occurring. And so you could end up, while being eaten, because the tiger is going to be a tiger, or being mauled at least, while that's happening, you can still have a response of sympathy for the tiger, and then a lot of pain. But the idea being that this is not this foregone conclusion that the whole system just flows from incoming input to an output, and there's a clear path to get through this that's not covered up by all sorts of complications into a big muddle. And this is kind of in a roundabout way trying to describe why INXPs don't do stuff, because there are always many possibilities, and they lead to many potentially different outcomes. And so if you have control over how you feel about things and are unsure of the context of what is the appropriate feeling, well, there's a whole lot of stuff that doesn't get much of a response. So add that up with FE in the fifth slot, if you go with the Beebe 8-function model, and there isn't even a clear awareness that there's a requirement to have an impact on the social fabric. So that's my second circumspect piece, and I will be back with more. I am getting toward a thing, and again, apologies that I'm going kind of dancing around it, but I hope that these pieces are also individually at least marginally interesting. And again, bye for now.